And good morning. I'm Sam Brock in for Savannah.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, path of destruction. Hurricane Fiona threatening thousands in the Caribbean. This after the storm plowed into the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, bringing fierce winds and devastating rainfall.
Still no water and no power and no internet.
Any information as to when that may be fixed?
We don't have a way of getting information.
We'll have the latest track for the storm that's gaining steam and forcing thousands to prepare for the worst. Political uncertainty. President Biden in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. Coming off a string of legislative wins, his approval rating is on the rise. But this morning, it's his future plans that are raising eyebrows. We'll have more on the comments he made about his future in the White House just 50 days before the midterm elections and what this could mean for 2024. End of the pandemic after more than 1 million deaths and 2.5 years of lockdowns and restrictions. From the head of the WHO and even President Biden, new hope that the worst could soon be behind us. But with the U.S. still averaging about 500 deaths a day, are we really there yet? And what does the post-pandemic America look like? And the price of beauty, with many Americans being forced to cut back because of crippling inflation. Sales for cosmetics and beauty products are as strong as ever. We'll take a look at what's behind their success and why many of us are willing to pay the price. No one better to guide you through that segment than Sam Brock and me.
Two dudes that wear makeup.
Exactly. Don't worry, we'll have another expert here to walk you through that. That's coming up later this hour. We're going to begin this hour with the latest movements of Hurricane Fiona, the Category 3 storm now barreling toward Turks and Caicos, where residents have been ordered to take shelter.
And of course, Hurricane Fiona has already left a path of destruction across the Caribbean. In the Dominican Republic, more than 700,000 people are without power this morning. And in Puerto Rico, no water and now power, as officials there are racing to assess just how bad the damage is after the hurricane made landfall on Sunday. We're going to have full coverage this morning with meteorologist Michelle Grossman tracking Fiona for us. But we start right now with NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez on the ground in Puerto Rico with the very latest.
This morning, Fiona has strengthened into a Category 3 hurricane as it barrels across the Caribbean, leaving a widespread trail of destruction. Twisted meadow and mudslides in the Dominican Republic, which is now under a state of emergency, and catastrophic flooding in Puerto Rico, where millions of American citizens are in the dark. Overnight, just 11% of the island had power. Only 35% had running water. Some areas drenched with more than 30 inches of rain since Fiona first made landfall on Sunday. From the air, staggering images of entire towns underwater, people on rooftops desperately waiting for help. More than 1,000 people across the island have already been rescued.
No power, no water, nothing.
Fabian Moran and his family in Yabucoa were among them as the water kept rising.
Had you ever seen something like this before?
No, never.
Mudslides, sinkholes, bridges washed away. The scope of the disaster still not fully known, since rescuers are still trying to reach remote areas that are cut off. On his way home from London, President Biden called Puerto Rico's Governor Pedro Pierluisi, pledging more federal support.
Was the government here on the island prepared for this kind of storm?
Definitely. Much better prepared than when Maria happened.
Exactly 5 years ago today, Hurricane Maria sliced through Puerto Rico, killing an estimated 3,000 people and decimating the island's electric grid.
Is it fair to describe the power grid in Puerto Rico as a complete disaster?
No, that's too much. It is fragile. It is fragile.
How long do you expect the power to be out
for?
Well,
most customers, I hope, will get their power back within days. How many days? That remains to be seen. But definitely not months.
Joining us now on the phone is Tanisha Tidwell, who is in Puerto Rico this morning. Tanisha, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. First of all, just describe what it is you are seeing, where you are, and how folks are handling the situation right now.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us, guys. To be honest, today looks like a much better day. We actually see a peak of sunshine today, so we are grateful and thankful for that. It has been, as you can see from the reports from Gabe and where he is on the southern part of the island, it has been traumatic here for us. We're in San Juan. And since Saturday, when the rain started coming down pretty hard, it's been dark, gloomy, the winds going sideways, the rain going sideways, the trees bowing. But I can say today looks like a much brighter day on the northern side where we are in San Juan of the island.
That is good to hear. We know it was a powerful storm when it hit Puerto Rico with all that rain, and really the flooding has been the big story. The National Weather Service, where you are in San Juan, has urged people to get to higher ground. Talk about the flooding, what you've seen, and have people been able to get to higher ground, to safer areas?
So, to be honest, as you know, in San Juan, it's more touristy area in Old San Juan, so you have a lot of hotels. So we've seen flooding in the streets, right? And so you can see the waters in the streets, and you don't see the cars going. But so the real concern is on the southern part, which is about 40 miles south of us, down in like Ponce and Salinas, where the rivers are over flooding. And so the rivers are overtaking people's homes and the streets. Here where we are, there is a river not too far from our hotel that people were talking about did overflood. I can actually see the San Juan Marina from my hotel, and it did not overflood, thankfully, because that's an entire marina with boats. We did see like one boat get carried away, so I'm not sure if damage to that boat or if it tipped over or not. But yes, what you're seeing is very heavy rain in Salinas, Ponce, further south. I had the pleasure of visiting several neighborhoods before the storm hit, like Tua Alta, Tua Baja, where people are still recovering from Hurricane Maria. And so they still have blue tarps on their homes. They still have poles in their rooftops. They are, still in devastation from 5 years ago. And so that's where your heart really bleeds and hurts, because, those individuals and those families didn't have the resources that we have, in a hotel, the safety and the generators and the food supply and the water supply. And so your heart really hurts when you think back to those people in those rural areas who just don't have the resources to survive any kind of catastrophe or rain like we've just experienced.
Tanisha Tidwell, thank you so much for your perspective and for really painting a picture of what's happening there right now. We're thinking of you and everyone in your country and wishing you as much safety as possible.
And you see,
okay,
Joe,
thank you so much.
The conditions that are going on in Puerto Rico right now after Fiona arrived as a Category 1 hurricane.
Exactly.
Since being upgraded.
Right, exactly. It keeps accelerating, so we want to get a check on where things are going right now. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is here with that. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, guys. Yeah, we're going to see the potential for more rain in Puerto Rico. It's so nice to hear from Tanisha that she's not seeing that rain falling right now, but we could see additional rainfall. They saw up to feet of rain, nearly 30 inches in some spots. They're going to add to those totals. It's the outer rain bands where they're seeing locally heavy rain. That could cause more life-threatening mudslides, also landslides. So as we go throughout the day, we're concerned about Puerto Rico still. We're concerned about the Dominican Republic still, because we're going to see some rain there as well. And then we're setting our eyes on Turks and Caicos and also the eastern parts of the Bahamas. So we do have some alerts in place. A hurricane warning, that is in red. That's for Turks and Caicos. We're seeing hurricane conditions already there. And we also have a tropical storm warning. That's where you see the orange in the southeastern portions of the Bahamas. We're going to start to see that in the next few hours, sort of churning up there. So let's follow the track for you, because it is a major storm right now. It became a major storm overnight. It moved over the really warm waters of the Atlantic, the Caribbean, so really strengthened. We're going to see a Category 4 storm, mostly sometime overnight into tomorrow. Could happen before that. But as we go throughout time, this is Wednesday at 2 a.m., and then we're going to expand this track a little bit further. We're going to include Bermuda now. And as it passes over or near Bermuda, you can see the cone of concern kind of including Bermuda. We could see it as a Category 4 storm. So fierce winds, really locally heavy rainfall. That will be the story as we go throughout time here. And we're looking at still a strong storm as we head towards the northern parts of the Atlantic. We have a marine layer, which is really, really warm. It's going to enter the Atlantic Canada as a really strong extratropical storm. Could be historic, could see the lowest pressure they've ever seen. That would be later on this weekend, Saturday into Sunday. We're going to continue to watch that for you. Now, the expectation remains that this storm will move off to the north and also the east. We're not going to see impacts to the East Coast, but we will see dangerous beach conditions. We're going to see excessive swells. We're going to see rough surf, rip currents from New England all the way down to the southeast. We do have additional areas of low pressure that we're watching, one being in the northern Atlantic, 80% chance of formation, 50% chance for the other system. So we're starting to wake up in the tropics, right? We were so quiet for so long. We now have Fiona. That's the first major storm. first major hurricane, and now we have those two other systems we're watching. Elsewhere in the country, flood watches in the southwest. That is tropical moisture kind of surging in there. Record highs in the middle of the country. This is a big story, too. It's late September. Fall arrives on Thursday. We're looking at least 30 records being broken today and also tomorrow in the central and southern plains. Temperatures 10 to 20 degrees, even 30 degrees above normal. The Northeast, we're still warm there, but less humid, and we're watching the chance for some showers and storms in the state of Florida. Record challenging heat today, triple digits in Topeka, Dodge City, near 100 degrees in Oklahoma City. So challenging some records once again. And we're going to see that as we head towards tomorrow, that heat heading to the east with temperatures once again into the 90s and 100s.
I can't believe looking at that map right now.
I know.
And then a storm going to Canada?
Yeah, right. I know. And it's going to be historic. They've never seen a storm like that. And that's because the waters are just so warm so far north.
So the reach is incredible. Puerto Rico could be looking at another storm coming up here.
Yep. And we're at peak season. We still have 50% of the season left.
Yeah, we've been lucky so far, but here we go now.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. Meantime, the destruction left behind by Hurricane Fiona is reigniting the anger that many Puerto Ricans feel towards the collapse of the power grid and the company that's taken over its operations. In the weeks leading up to the weekend storm, many Puerto Ricans were already protesting LUMA, that is the private company recently put in charge of the grid in June of last year. Protesters reaching their breaking point earlier this month, bringing broken appliances to the doorstep of Governor Pedro Pierluisi, calling for an end to the contract with LUMA. According to the Wall Street Journal, officials in Puerto Rico are now reconsidering their contract with LUMA in light of the damage following Hurricane Fiona. In a statement, LUMA said, quote, "We are going to continue to work nonstop until every customer is restored and the entire grid is re-energized." Joining us now, Dr. Yarimar Bonilla, for more on this. She's the director of the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College. Dr. Bonilla, thanks so much for being with us. Walk us through the struggle here for electricity. Why does LUMA have control of the power grid on the island in the first place?
Well, they're in control of energy distribution, not of energy production. And the reason is that after Hurricane Maria, it was decided by the Fiscal Control Board in Puerto Rico that instead of simply repairing the grid, we needed to privatize it. And so the promise was that privatization was going to bring better service, was going to help with Puerto Rico's debt, and was going to make us more ready for these kinds of storms. But that has not been the case. What privatization of the grid has brought is higher prices, less reliable service, and a reduction in personnel. And so that has meant that LUMA has not been able to respond to the outages with the speed in which the previous company had, and that it doesn't really have the personnel it needs right now to quickly recover. So a lot of folks are calling not just for the cancellation of the contract, but actually its annulment, because they describe it as a leonine contract. That's a legal term. That means that it only benefits one party. And so they think that there is cause for a complete annulment of this contract.
So privatization was supposed to make a difference. Also an influx of assistance from the U.S. federal government. You know, Congress allocated billions of dollars to rebuild the power grid following Hurricane Maria, as you just outlined. And yet the funds have been slow to go out, if they went out at all. So what role, I guess, Dr. Bonilla, does the U.S. play here when we're talking about the power grid? How much responsibility does Congress bear in the failure of the system?
Well, Congress is not allowed for a modernization of the system, which is what we would need. We need a system that's ready to face climate change, you know, where we have hurricanes happening with a greater frequency and a greater intensity. And at the same time, the burden of being ready for these storms is being placed on individuals who are now impoverished because of the austerity politics in Puerto Rico and the rising cost of living, which includes the rising cost of electricity. And in addition, residents had to prepare for themselves to get the solar-powered lights, get the water supplies that they need, get the food supplies that they need, because they're going to spend multiple days without electricity. And all of that is falling to individuals who have to pay the highest income tax in all of the United States.
And talking about those elevated costs, just for context, the average Puerto Rican pays 8% of their entire income just to energy. Compare that to 2.4% in the United States. So Puerto Rico right now also experiencing nearly 8 blackouts a year as they're paying more money. And this has led to those protests we just talked about at the governor's mansion on the island, where people are bringing their broken appliances as a result of the blackouts. As demonstration here, what kind of impact do these blackouts have on the everyday life of Puerto Ricans, and who's really suffering?
They're absolutely life-threatening. There's no other way to describe them. There's a huge number of Puerto Ricans are disabled, elderly. They depend on life-saving technologies like CPAP machines. They need respiratory machines. They also, many of them live in apartment buildings on 12th, 14th floors, and they need elevators to get in and out. And so we're seeing right now that folks that need to go out to get assistance, they're stuck in high buildings, right, and unable to get the assistance that they need. So it's absolutely, it's not just about powering air conditioners or watching TV. It really is about a human rights issue and a humanitarian crisis to not have access to these kind of life-saving technologies right now.
All right, incredibly unnerving to see. Dr. Yarimar Bonilla, thank you so much for your insight.
In New York City this morning, the United Nations General Assembly is underway, and it's in person for the first time since the start of the pandemic. President Biden will appear in front of some of the world's top leaders tomorrow to deliver his remarks. Those comments will come against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine and rising threats to democracy around the world. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker joins us now with the latest on this. Kristen, good morning to you. So what can we expect to hear from the president when he speaks tomorrow?
Hi, Joe. Good to be with you. Well, John Kirby, who's a top NSC official here, said the president's remarks on Wednesday will stress the need to respect international borders. And, of course, that message will come, as you mentioned, with Russia's war in Ukraine in the spotlight. The president expected to renew calls for unity among allies as they support Ukraine and as they address other crises, from climate change to the global economy. Of course, inflation is still at a 40-year high here in the U.S., and concerns are really deepening that Europe could dip into a recession. And if that happens, Joe, there would be ripple effects all around the world. The president, it is worth noting, was slated to speak today, but his remarks were pushed back so that he could attend the Queen's funeral, Joe.
Kristen, there are also some notable absences at this year's assembly. Russian President Vladimir Putin, along with Chinese President Xi Jinping, will both skip the trip to New York this time around. How significant is that, given that the war in Ukraine is still demanding so much of the world's attention?
Well, it is significant, and arguably the most notable absence will be Russian President Vladimir Putin, given the war in Ukraine, and that's going to be the top focus here. His absence really underscores, Joe, that there's just no real effort at diplomacy at this point to bring that crisis to an end. There's no real talking happening. And of course, it's also significant that China's leader will be absent. China is a growing geopolitical power, and the U.S. has taken steps to try to counter the rise of China. There are real concerns here about an apparent coziness, in addition to all of that, between Putin and China's President Xi Jinping. Now, look, it's also worth noting that the leaders of India and Ethiopia will be no-shows as well, but they will all be represented by ministers who will deliver speeches this week, Joe.
And, Kristen, any other issues we should expect President Biden to address during his time here in New York?
Well, in addition to Russia's war in Ukraine, which is, of course, going to be the top issue, as well as climate and the economy, we expect that other key issues will be trying to make sure that Iran does not develop a nuclear weapon and those ongoing tensions between China and Taiwan. Joe.
All right, Kristen Welker. Kristen, thank you so much. Staying with the United Nations General Assembly meeting, one of the top items on the agenda is, of course, the war in Ukraine.
Kira Rudik, who is a member of Ukraine's parliament and the leader of the political party Holos, is in New York speaking out about the war right now. Kira, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
As Kristen just outlined a second ago, we know that the president of Russia, obviously Vladimir Putin, is not going to be there. China's president will not be there. The world stage is set now to discuss Ukraine. And what is your message to other world leaders?
Russia needs to be kicked off the UN. This is the main point and the main goal that we are having right now. First of all, it was illegal. They even remained in the United Nations. Nobody voted for them. They just remained there since Soviet Union collapsed. And right now they are violating every single point of the UN Charter. You know what? Because they never voted to be in, and they never claimed that they will be going along with the UN Charter. This is why right now we need to make things that are really obvious for everyone, that Russia is not united with anybody. It doesn't want to be a part of their democratic world. To make it actually official and kick them off. And we are gathering signatures for the petition to the Secretary General of the United Nations. We will be having a big rally in front of the United Nations. Since the collapse of Soviet Union, for the last 30 years, Russia violated territories of the other countries 14 times. How is it even possible that the world keeps tolerating that? How is it even possible that we are in the 21st century at the place where they are killing, torturing, raping people in my country? This is why we need to take action, not only military action, but a diplomatic action. And this is why we are here, to support this cause.
We want to ask you about some of the things that are actually happening in Ukraine right now, especially when it comes to these nuclear plants. Ukraine's state nuclear company has said Russian troops struck a nuclear power plant, but reactors were not damaged. How unnerving has all of this been over the last few months dealing with these nuclear concerns?
I can tell you this is the point that concerns me the most. Because like any sane person would not even go around a nuclear reactor. We all know, we remember Chernobyl. We know like what a kind of tragedy it would be that would affect people in generations, not only Ukrainians, but Russians as well, but like people throughout the Europe, throughout Asia and Africa. And so to bombard the station, it's just being not only a nuclear terrorist and being an insane person. And we are right now one mistake away from another tragedy. One mistake, like one Russian soldier would just like do like a wrong position of the rocket, of the missile hit, and that's it. And the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant that they are attacking right now is the largest nuclear plant in the whole Europe. So Chernobyl will be peanuts comparing to that. And this is why it's so important right now for the international community to take action. There was a UN mission coming to the station and claiming that it needs to be a neutral, that there should be no fighting, no military there. Well, guess what happened? Do you think Russia removed their forces from there? Of course, no. And this is one, again, of the reasons that they need to be kicked off the UN. They are not part of the international community. They are threatening the whole world right now. And there is basically no other way than fighting them to make sure that they stop.
There has been recent momentum for Ukraine with the counteroffensive in the Kharkiv, and you're laughing. So, I mean, how do you evaluate what's happened in the last several weeks in terms of gaining more momentum for military aid and for financial assistance?
I'm not laughing. I'm happy. So, you know, this was the news that we were expecting for the last 6 months. And this was incredibly important for Ukraine and for everybody who supports us. Because finally, people have seen what we have been saying for the last 6 months. Give us the weapons, and we will show you what we can do with it. And right now, finally, when all the weapons that was promised to us started to arrive, our soldiers are able to push back. And I'm sure we will be pushing back forward, especially till the winter comes. So it will be almost impossible to fight during the winter. This is why it's so critical for us to regain as many territories as possible before the cold hits.
All right. Thank you so much, Kira. And I know, obviously, extremely trying times, but some positive developments in recent weeks. Yes. We'll be thinking of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And glory to Ukraine.
Coming up, a new twist in the ongoing migrant crisis. The local sheriff who says he's now investigating Governor Ron DeSantis after the Florida governor sent nearly 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard.
Plus, he was the subject of the famous Serial podcast years ago. Now the man at the center of a 1999 murder is waking up a free man for the first time in more than 20 years. We're digging into the shocking decision next.
We're back with new details this morning on how exactly 48 migrants ended up on Martha's Vineyard last week after boarding flights from Texas.
The latest developments now, Joe. A Texas sheriff has opened an investigation into those flights, saying the migrants appear to be lured onto the planes under false pretenses. NBC News correspondent Emily Keta joining us now. That really appears to be the key aspect of all of this, Emily, is what were the migrants actually told?
Yeah, absolutely. And some really strong words from the Bexar County sheriff, who says these migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard were preyed upon. Meantime, Texas's and Florida's governors vowed to continue transporting migrants north, with southern states experiencing a record influx of illegal crossings.
This morning, another twist in the rising tensions over immigration throughout the country.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis may now be in hot water after a Texas sheriff opened an investigation into that plane of migrants sent to Martha's Vineyard last week, which DeSantis took credit for. Javier Salazar, a sheriff from Bexar County, Texas, says he believes a Venezuelan migrant was hired to recruit a group of other migrants who were flown from Texas to Florida and then to the wealthy enclave of Martha's Vineyard.
Our understanding is that a Venezuelan migrant was paid what we would call a bird dog fee to recruit approximately 50 migrants from the area around a migrant resource center.
The sheriff saying the migrants were brought there dishonestly.
I will use the word lured under false pretenses into staying at a hotel for a couple of days and then eventually flown to Martha's Vineyard. They were promised work. They were promised the solution to several of their problems.
DeSantis, who took credit for arranging the flights, hitting back overnight.
It's clearly voluntary, and all the other nonsense you're hearing is just not true. And why wouldn't they want to go, given where they were? They were in really, really bad shape. I think what we've been able to do is show that this border is a disaster.
The attorneys for many of the migrants allege there were false promises made regarding work opportunities, schooling, and immigration assistance, and that many were told they were flying to Boston. It's part of a larger battle brewing over immigration ahead of the midterm elections in 2024 presidential race, where DeSantis may be a contender. His migrant transport following in the footsteps of Texas's governor, who has bused thousands of migrants to cities like Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York in recent months. Ron DeSantis' office also said overnight on the investigation, immigrants have been more than willing to leave Bexar County after being abandoned, homeless, and left to fend for themselves. Florida gave them an opportunity to seek greener pastures in a sanctuary jurisdiction. Guys, all part of the ongoing battle over the border.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Emily, thank you so much. Appreciate it. A Baltimore judge has overturned Adnan Syed's conviction in the 1999 murder of his ex-girlfriend, Hae-Min Lee.
And it comes after the judge says that key evidence was never actually presented to the court. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joining us now with more. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Sam and Joe. This morning, for the first time in more than 2 decades, Adnan Syed is waking up at home. But his legal odyssey is not over.
Adnan Syed walked out to cheers and a scrum of cameras. No longer in prison after 23 years, but not quite free.
You can imagine today is both joyful and incredibly overwhelming, and he and his family are processing all of this.
Syed's conviction for the 1999 murder of Hae-Min Lee, his former high school girlfriend, thrown out by a Baltimore judge at the state's urging.
We're not yet declaring Adnan Syed is innocent, but we are declaring that in the interest of fairness and justice, he is entitled to a new trial.
It's Serial, one story told week by week.
8 years ago, Syed's case became a media sensation. Doubts about his conviction raised in the inaugural season of the podcast Serial. The story mesmerized listeners, sparking debate over his innocence or guilt.
If he did what he did, then who's the person that I saw every day in class?
Leading to a 2019 HBO docuseries.
This is a piece of evidence that nobody even realized existed.
This morning, Syed is under home detention with a GPS monitor. Prosecutors have 30 days to bring a new trial against Syed for Lee's murder or drop the case.
Miss Lee's family deserve closure. They deserve justice, and we intend to fight for that.
In vacating the ruling, the judge found that the original prosecutors did not turn over evidence to the defense that could have helped Syed. And evidence uncovered since would have added, quote, substantial and significant probability that the result would have been different, end of quote. The Lee family now looking ahead in their ongoing pursuit for justice.
They want to, more than anybody, to have a person who killed Hae-Min Lee brought to justice. And so if that is not Mr. Syed, then they're open to the possibility of anybody else who actually did it being prosecuted.
Now, it's important to remember that Syed has not been found innocent or not guilty. His conviction has been vacated, which means he could be tried again. Meanwhile, Serial is continuing to follow the case, releasing a new podcast episode this morning as the clock is ticking on the prosecutor's decision. Sam and Joe?
Fascinating developments there. Ann Thompson, thank you so much.
Coming up, President Biden says Americans have made it to the end of the pandemic.
But COVID is here to stay, obviously. So where do we stand after nearly 3 years of safety precautions? We ask the experts next.
Welcome back. A nationwide effort to register people to vote is underway this morning as the U.S. officially recognizes National Voter Registration Day. The new push comes with less than 2 months to go until Election Day as key issues begin to shape battleground states across the country. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster joins us now from one of those battlegrounds in Wisconsin. Shaq, good morning to you. So what are you hearing from voters there in Wisconsin? What are some of the biggest issues they want candidates to address in both their, they got a big Senate race there, a big gubernatorial race there. What do they want to see them address in the upcoming midterms?
Some very competitive races here in Wisconsin for sure. And when you talk to voters, you hear a slew of issues that come up. Everything from education to immigration to what to do on the economy. But when you talk to them about the common issue, when you put together all that sound and listen to what comes out the most, it's what we've been talking about for much of the summer. It's the overturning of Roe v. Wade and abortion rights and the rise in prices and inflation. Listen to what we've been hearing.
Everything's so expensive. Everything. Gas, food, especially food.
Yeah.
I work in 2 full-time jobs to survive, and I'm single.
Inflation to me is not, I mean, it's just kind of consequential of the world that we live in. If we can find ways to fix that, great. But things that are way more important are more of the social issues for me. So yeah, things like women's rights and health and so forth, improving that landscape.
Yeah, although I am a woman, as much as I love the conversation surrounding us, cost of living affects everybody and what's happening. And I'm not going to say that abortion rights doesn't affect everybody. It affects a lot of people, but cost of living, if you improve cost of living, that may affect women who feel like they have to go the route of abortion because they can't take care of their child financially.
You hear those conversations there, and in listening with them, that is what candidates are listening for, to see what hits issues the most and what issues hit voters the most and what issues connect with voters the most and drive them to the polls in these incredibly competitive races here in Wisconsin.
So then, Jack, the question is, how are the different parties handling those issues? And we've got some new NBC News polling that details how voters feel each party is handling key issues. Walk us through those numbers and some of the big takeaways for each side of the aisle.
Yeah, it's what First Read, our political unit, calls a tale of two campaigns, where Democrats and Republicans are using different messages and playing to their strengths. And this poll gives you a sense of what those strengths are. You see, for Republicans, voters trust them and side with them more on issues of border security, crime, and the economy. All those advantages that you see there are all-time Republican highs in our polling. For Democrats, the issue of abortion up 22%. That's an all-time high for Democrats, but Democrats also leading on issues of health care and education. So that's why when you watch the television here, when you look at the campaign literature that's going out to voters here in Milwaukee, here in Wisconsin, you're seeing two different messages from the campaigns. Republicans talking about the immigration, talking about crime, talking about cost of living increases. Democrats feeling that abortion is a big advantage for them. We'll see which one pulls out ahead when we get to November.
Yeah, we may not know until November. So, Shaq, let's talk about the fact that this is Voter Registration Day. What are some of the initiatives you're seeing to help increase voter turnout there in Milwaukee and across the country?
Yes, I should have started by saying happy Voter Registration Day to you. You're seeing events all across the country. Vice President Harris is in South Carolina. She's going to be talking with students. She's going to be talking about Voter Registration Day. In Atlanta, Ben & Jerry's is giving out free ice cream, and they're giving out voter information as well, trying to engage as many people as possible. And then right here in Milwaukee, you're going to see some groups having a car voter parade going around the city for several hours, making several stops, getting people engaged. You know, when President Biden officially announced National Voter Registration Day, this is a day that has been celebrated since about 2012. But when he put out that proclamation, he encouraged people, even if you're registered to vote, to go and check that registration. If you moved, check that address, make sure that all your information is up to date. And that's what you have many groups across the country encouraging people to do today on this National Voter Registration Day, Joe.
And a happy National Voter Registration Day to you, Shaq Brewster. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Awareness and ice cream. You got it. Check and check. The World Health Organization, Joe, announcing last week that the end is in sight for the COVID-19 pandemic. Weekly deaths globally reached their lowest rate since the beginning of the pandemic back in March of 2020.
President Biden then doubled down over the weekend, telling 60 Minutes, quote, the pandemic is over. Now, there have been nearly 96 million cases of COVID here in the U.S. in the last 2.5 years. More than 1 million people across the country have lost their lives because of the virus.
Joining us now for more on this NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Kavita Patel, who I call with literally every single COVID question I've ever had, and she will attest to that. Dr. Patel, you know, we look at the numbers right now, and you see in the U.S. they've stayed relatively flat, but it's still averaging more than 500 deaths for the last couple of weeks. So how does a pandemic officially come to an end, and how are we getting close to there?
Sam, that's the, I guess, trillion-dollar question when you think about how much is at stake and what the president stated over the weekend. The end of a pandemic is not this clear, bright line like moving from one state to another or changing a time zone. It's actually a kind of a combination of dimensions, and a lot of them are psychological, and I think that's what the president reflected. But we're still not at the end of it because we don't have kind of a regular seasonality that we can expect. We don't know if and when a next surge might happen. And then I think on top of that, you're right, 400 to 500 deaths a day. That might be where we are at kind of permanently, but we just have too little information about the future, the near future even, the 6 months to know that.
So as we move forward, is it likely, do we think, that COVID is going to remain a leading cause of death in the U.S., or is there hope that this new shot, whether it's your third shot, your fourth shot, your fifth shot, this new one that's out there is going to have a decent impact on those numbers?
Joe, I wish I could say that people would take those shots. That absolutely, if people did kind of stay up to date, as the CDC calls it, which includes this most recent booster, which has unfortunately not had that robust uptake that we see when we have new vaccines issued. If we do not get those numbers to move, then we're sadly going to continue to have COVID be not just in the top 3 leading causes of death, which is what they were in 2020 and 2021, but really like just kind of forever sealing what the fate of our country is and the world, because we're talking about COVID like we're talking about conditions like heart disease, stroke, cancer. And I hate to say it, in fact, all of this could be prevented with a combination of vaccines and access to treatments. But I know, Sam, you and Joe both know that easier said than done. It's not actually easy for patients and consumers to navigate some of this, even when they want it.
Right, and creating the urgency to get people to actually get those vaccinations as well. We've been talking about that for a long time. Dr. Patel, I also wanted to ask you about a study that focuses on people who had COVID 2 years ago in Wuhan, China, which of course is the origin of the outbreak. It found that about 20% of them continue to have symptoms even today. Is that something that we should be concerned about here in the United States?
Yeah, this brings up, people have been calling this long COVID. The technical term is post-acute sequelae of COVID. That's what we say, the medical kind of literature. However you call it, though, what you point out, Sam, that we're seeing people years later who are still symptomatic, and that's in adults. About 15 to 20%. That's consistent with literature across the world. Fortunately, in children, it's a lower number, but I would just put forward that any number is one we shouldn't accept. And this, again, when we talk about cancer, heart disease, and stroke, think about the research and decades of work that has gone into understanding that we are just in literally years of trying to understand and unpack long COVID, and it's affecting people's lives today. So we need to put way more attention to it than we have in the past.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Appreciate that insight.
Coming up, months after investors worried the Fed was moving too slow to fight inflation, some are now concerned that it's being too aggressive.
And we're digging into what another interest rate hike would mean for your bottom line. More on that coming up next. Welcome back, and a closer look right now at some more financial headlines. A look into the country's consumer spending as overall prices, of course, continue to skyrocket.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money headlines. Hey, Silvana, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, the CEO of Intuit says consumer spending is still healthy, but inflation needs to get under control. He tells CNBC's Jim Cramer the company is able to track spending patterns as well as the number of employees businesses have hired and the number of hours they've worked. Intuit makes financial software like TurboTax and QuickBooks. And while consumer spending appears to be holding up, he acknowledges it won't necessarily stay that way. Amazon is already seeing benefits from its big investment in the NFL. An internal memo says the company saw the biggest 3 hours for U.S. Prime signups ever during last week's Thursday Night Football game, even more than Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or Prime Day. The matchup between the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs was the first of Amazon's reported 11-year, $11 billion exclusive streaming rights deal with the NFL, which means that fans in most cases must have a Prime membership to watch. And Hilton has signed a deal to design the living quarters for astronauts on the upcoming Starlab space station. NASA has granted contracts to private companies who are building private space stations as the agency prepares to decommission the International Space Station by the end of the decade. Lockheed Martin and Voyager are partnering with Hilton, who will also explore potential marketing opportunities such as future trips to a space hotel. No word on how many Hilton honors points that trip will cost.
You literally stole the question right from my mouth there. All right.
Who's signing up?
You know us, Silvana.
No Airbnb in space. Just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right, the Federal Reserve meets today, the first day of a two-day policy meeting.
And this is pretty momentous. The outcome of that meeting could have a huge impact on your wallet as the central bank right now is preparing for another major interest rate hike to try to get inflation under control.
Caleb Silver, the editor-in-chief at Investopedia, joins us now for more on this. So, Caleb, walk us through all the factors at play here behind this interest rate decision.
Well, the Fed is going to raise interest rates tomorrow, probably 0.75%. Why? Because inflation is still raging out of control at 8.3%. So the Fed has been hiking rates for the past several months, are going to continue through the end of the year until they get to the point where inflation is coming down. They call that price stability. But what's happening is as they raise interest rates, it's really cooling down the economy, putting some people in fear that we may be going into or already in a recession right now.
Whether it's credit cards, Caleb, or home loans, you're looking at things that are twice as expensive as they were just a matter of months ago. The Fed's trying to thread this needle, but how can they do that while maintaining price stability? Is that even possible?
No, it's not possible right now, and you're seeing demand destruction in the housing market because as the Fed raises the prime rate, the mortgage rate, which is variable, is based off of that. Credit card rates are based off of that. You see these borrowing costs go up. It has cooled the housing market. We've had this 9 months straight of home builder sentiment declines, 7 straight months of declining sales, 7 straight months of housing start declines. So it's destroyed the housing market, and it's also raised credit card debt.
I mean, all year long, we've seen both Wall Street, the markets, and the housing market really on this roller coaster ride. How do you expect, first of all, Wall Street to react to whatever the decision is?
If you're talking about Wall Street and investors at large, they've already reacted. The stock market, the S&P 500, is down around 20%. That's bear market territory. We were there back in June, climbed up a little bit, but then the Fed talked a little bit more aggressively about raising rates because inflation has been spinning out of control, and they need to raise rates to bring those prices down. We're a long way off. They're going to keep raising rates through the end of the year.
How long does this go on for? I know many people are going to have that question. 75 basis points, or if it's 100 basis points tomorrow?
Yeah,
that happens. Yeah. How long does this continue?
Words matter, so we have to listen to what Fed Chair Jay Powell says tomorrow at the press conference after the FOMC makes that interest rate decision. And if he says things like for a sustained period of time or until we see meaningful declines in inflation, we're going to continue to raise rates and be aggressive. That kind of language is what scares investors out of the stock market into places like the dollar and U.S. government bonds.
I also mentioned the housing market a moment ago. So if rates go up, at what point do we expect mortgage rates to maybe start stabilizing?
You know, they're continuing to climb. The 30-year now above 6%. We haven't seen that since the great financial crisis. So they're continuing to climb, and they probably will continue to climb as long as rates go up. We're looking at probably 4% in early 2023 for the Fed's prime rate. All the other rates are going to go up commensurately with that.
Something to keep in mind if you're looking at buying a house here in the next year.
Timing is everything.
Right? All right, Caleb Silver, appreciate your advice as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. Coming up next, Joe. No need to blush. Cosmetic sales are as strong as ever.
Obviously. So what's at the foundation of their success and how they've remained inflation-proof? Stay with us. That's next.
And welcome back. This morning, we're celebrating our own morning news anchor, Joe Fryer, with good reason. Joe was just honored as Journalist of the Year by the NLGJA, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. And there he is smiling, picking up his award a little bit earlier this month in Chicago. The organization says the award honors an LGBTQ journalist whose exceptional abilities, integrity, and distinctive work brings honor to the profession. Over the last year, Joe has reported on numerous issues impacting the LGBTQ community, including the recent Pride special that he hosted. Congrats, Joe. Of course, it is well-deserved. And I'm just wondering, do you have like a ticker at this point in terms of counting the number of awards you've won in the last few months?
Nah, it's been a very, we found out about this in June, so it feels like it's been a very long celebration. But it was absolute honor. Our colleagues were there in Chicago where the award was handed out. They put together this amazing video that made me cry multiple times in front of people. So it's the response has been absolutely fantastic. And I'm grateful that we have a show like this and a platform like this and colleagues at NBC who let us tell these stories, which is so important.
The incredible sensitivity and intellect that you bring to your reporting. And for those that don't know, you're considered the gold standard for writing in this field. So it's well-deserved, Joe.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that coming from you, too.
I'm going to make you blush.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a great segue to our next segment. We're going to do some retail therapy here. Despite Americans cutting back on shopping because of rising prices, it seems like there are just some things people can't live without, and that is makeup.
That you'd think it would say coffee. No, you can't live without makeup. Major retailers like Target, Kohl's, and Macy's have highlighted strong sales of beauty items in recent months. And the largest beauty retailer, Ulta Beauty, reported an overall sales spike of nearly 17% in their most recent quarter.
So joining us now to discuss this spike in beauty purchases is Trey Bodge. Thank goodness, because you don't need Sam and I talking about that here. Trey is a smart shopping expert at TrueTrey.com and a frequent guest on our show. Good to have you with us. So why is it some Americans are splurging on makeup and beauty products right now, especially since inflation is causing people to watch their pockets when it comes to so many other things?
Well, first of all, congrats, Joe. You've had such an exciting summer already. So I had to say that. But what's happening, I think, now is that because we're so uncertain about what's happening with our money in the next couple of months, people are tightening their belts. They're spending more conservatively. But makeup or, lipstick in particular is one of those things that you can buy for yourself that feels really special, makes you feel special, but it doesn't break the bank.
And I feel like we're no longer on Zoom right now, so people are actually out in person and maybe want to spruce up their look.
Well, that's an interesting
right?
point, because you saw this huge bump, Trey, right after people were largely taking off their masks when we got through that first space, right? I say at that point in time. But then there was a lot of spending. And now here we come back again. We're seeing a renewed interest in beauty products. And experts are now chalking this up to the so-called lipstick index. Can you explain what that theory is and whether you agree with it or not?
Yeah, so this is a little bit different than, like you said, sort of the revenge shopping or spending that we saw earlier in the pandemic, where people were buying, really expensive furniture for their homes and maybe couldn't afford it. So the lipstick index or the lipstick theory is something that has been around for decades, and it kind of shows a pattern of when the economy dips, lipstick or other makeup categories do tend to spike a little bit. And it is, like I said, it's that little special thing that makes you feel good, that's not that expensive. And, Sam, you mentioned coffee before. Starbucks recently reported really record earnings. And so we are seeing spikes in other little categories as well. So you can treat yourself to that caramel macchiato if you're not a lipstick person, or maybe buy yourself an article of clothing. We've seen some spikes there. So it really is about those little things that make us feel good, but also allow us to keep our belts tight, because, of course, all this uncertainty with the economy.
And then leave the lipstick on the coffee cup. There you go. So, Trey, what other products are we seeing a spike in sales right now?
Yeah, so we are seeing spikes in coffee. We saw that with Starbucks and restaurants in general. As the world opens up, we want to get out there and enjoy the things that we couldn't for so long during the pandemic. So we're seeing some spikes there. Of course, consumers are encountering higher prices at restaurants, obviously, because food is up over 13.5% right now. But people are still treating themselves to those restaurants, and then clothing, some little spikes there, too.
It is always interesting, even with all this inflation, you want to put your best foot forward.
You do.
And so if you're going to prioritize anything, I guess it's all about the...
There you go. There you go. All right. Trey Bodge, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
And that does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.